Chris, how are you doing?
Great, and yourself?
I could use about 20 more hours of sleep, but also I'm also at the place where it's like, I don't want to sleep anymore. I'm tired of sleeping. If they made a pill where I only had to sleep for 30 minutes, I would take it immediately.
Take it from me, sleep is
overrated.
No, it is golden. It is worth its weight in absolute gold.
Yeah, but if they made a pill or you just put on a weird little brain mask thing and you're able to get 8 hours of sleep inside of 10 minutes, 30 minutes.
So you want to be an elf?
Well, that's Forgotten Realms elf. But actually, I think Tolkien elves also had a weird sleep thing. I don't really know Tolkien elves that well, though, so I can't really speak on that. But not all elves, Chris. Not all elves trance.
Well, you could be a Warforged and be kind of like your new car where, you could just charge for a little bit, get up to 60% and just keep going and then just run yourself down and be I better go real quick for a couple hours and get back up to 40. There you go.
So how's that any different than now?
Get some sleep. Stop working on. We have a new project coming out, so I know you're killing yourself on it. I'm glad that I contributed nothing. Hey, I did the maps. But yeah, no, it's real. After about 3 days of no sleep, it's fun. The shit you see out of the corner of your eyes, awesome. Let me tell you, it freaks you the fuck out.
I could make those all into D&D monsters. I should do that for Dumpstat.
It is
science.
It's not
creativity.
It's not good.
Today we're going to be talking about Spelljammers, but before we get there, Chris, we're going to talk about the latest news for D&D, and really the only major news to talk about within the last month is this little minor thing called OneD&D. I don't know if you've heard of it, Chris.
All I have now.
Oh, well, that's good. So OneD&D is the playtest rules for the upcoming Dungeons and Dragons, except it's still... Well, it's not 5th edition. It's just Dungeons and Dragons. And 5th edition has never been 5th edition. It's always been Dungeons and Dragons. Yep. So OneD&D is Dungeons and Dragons, except you can play with the 5th edition rule set or the new 5th edition rule set. And the new 5th edition rule set is backwards compatible with the old 5th edition rule set. But at that point, is it really a different system?
I'm so glad I'm totally confused now. Thanks. My brain hurts.
You're welcome.
So it's essentially what? Pathfinder 3, but stripped of all the rules?
It's basically like if you had Tolsha's Cauldron of everything and you gave it a bunch of illegal substances and it got strung out and then was like, I am the new captain of D&D and this is how we will play.
Well, that's kind of what Tasha wanted to do anyways, given her lore, but whatever. All right, talk about it. Let me hear what your wonderful opinions are.
I don't really have much opinions about it so far. I mean, for those who don't know, we'll link to the playtest and then show notes. OneD&D, the first playtest just shows off a couple of different race builds, a couple of different background templates, as well as some new rules for grappling and what the slowed condition does. And yes, slowed is finally a condition. Again, finally. I will link to a little bit of Homebrew I did where I expanded the conditions in 5e, and guess what? Slowed was one of those conditions.
Yes, it was. I liked that article, so definitely link it. It's actually, I haven't read Slowed, but I'm sure it's better than what they've put out.
It's slightly different than what the slow spell is. I don't remember off the top of my head. I can barely remember
yesterday
conditions from 5e. I keep thinking I should tattoo all the conditions on my arm just to make it easy to reference, but then then I'd have to get them removed for the new edition and put on new ones for the new
Yeah, laser removal hurts, let me just tell you, okay?
Maybe I'll just use sticky notes like a normal person.
Well, you can go half-ass if you want, I guess.
But I mean, the rules are fine. It's basically just Tasha's Cauldron of everything when it comes to the new rules. There's nothing mind-blowing. They're still keeping the term bonus action, which infuriates me because it's not technically a bonus action. It is a minor action if we're using a 4E parlance, or a swift action if you're using 3E terminology.
Swift action is definitely the terminology they should go back to.
Yeah, bonus action sounds like it's a regular action. You just get a bonus one for some reason.
I'm special.
Yeah, it's not a good term at all. Not a good term in the least, but we're stuck with it. I mean, the rest of it, I feel like the biggest thing for me, well, there's two big things for me that I've noticed. One, they are putting feat levels on there. So when you get a background, you get a level 1 feat, which could be toughness. It could be the rehashed lucky feat, which I really didn't feel like we needed a buff to the lucky feat.
Yeah, no shit.
Whatever. Again, no one ever talks to me or asks my opinion, which they shouldn't. I'm a nobody. I'm just here writing a blog. It's not like I have say over the WotC, if you want to put me over everything, I'm happy to do it.
I'm sure you would be. I'm
probably cheaper than, Jeremy Crawford or Mike Merles.
Well, Mike Merles, definitely. I can't even imagine how much that guy's making. Well, hey, we are on target to go well over 1 million visitors this year. That's kind of a big deal.
Yeah. Hey, you know what? That is true. WotC, if you want access to our 1 million plus visitors. But the other interesting thing is that attack rolls, when you make an unarmed strike, so, you just punch someone in the mouth for talking about you, saying that you're a silver coin adventurer, when in your heart, you're a platinum coin adventurer. You can either deal damage to them, grapple them, or use it to shove, so knock them prone or shove them back 5 feet. So it's kind of...
It's MMA?
I mean, yes, it's MMA, but also, the other thing is now, grapple checks were, in 5e, were an athletics check contested by the target's athletics or acrobatics. Now it's creature's armor, which means wizards have a better time escaping grapple because now you can just cast a shield spell because you go off of your unarmed strike to hit.
What?
So when you make an unarmed strike, you obviously roll against the AC and you choose either to deal damage, to grab them, or knock them prone or shove them back 5 feet. Now that it's no longer a skill check, but rather an attack roll, your target is,
I get the concept, but punching plate mail is gonna hurt. I don't want to do damage. I'm gonna shove. I mean, there's some basic. I get it. It's a fantasy game, but in anything, if you punch metal, it hurts. You shove them. It shouldn't be an option. I like it being an attack roll. I do. But
I feel like it's almost harkens back to 3rd edition with touch AC.
Yeah.
When the wizards who got nothing to their base attack bonus, they made up a new armor class where it's just your touch AC, which is 10 plus your dexterity modifier, so that they could hit with their magical spells, because they had a horrible hit bonus.
Yeah, no shit. I don't know. I'm not sure about that one. The part that
it's definitely weird, but now it's so much easier to counter if you're a spellcaster, because again, you just cast shield, or you have shield of faith on you, or such and such and such and such, mage armor and whatnot.
Yeah.
Whereas before, you either needed a good strength or dexterity score to avoid being grappled. And now it's oh no, you don't need that. You can just keep focusing on AC, which is what you were doing anyways, because your AC is pretty awful. Well, and so you're just kind of being rewarded for focusing on only one thing.
And I don't think you should be. If you're stupid enough to be playing a spellcaster and someone's up in front of you, you get to be grappled. You're an idiot. Stay in the back. Run away. No. I'm a big fan of that when you play a spellcaster, as our current campaign knows.
Run as fast as you can, then they can't touch you.
You shouldn't be up front. No. There's a reason that spells have range. Big range.
It does make me wonder if they'll be readjusting how reach works and grapple stuff. Because there's large crabs that have a reach of 10 feet, which means when they hit you with their claw, they can grapple you. And then all the players are well, I'm going to hit its arm. And it's well, technically, that's not its space it occupies. But it also doesn't make sense. You can't attack its claw and deal damage to it.
That's an issue with targeting that they really don't want to get into.
Yeah. But I mean, bugbear characters,
they got goofy long arms,
which doesn't make sense.
Well, it's got to be a bitch to find long sleeve shirts that fit. I mean, think about it. I mean, the chest is going to fit, but the sleeves are going to come up almost to your elbows. That's got to suck. Backgrounds now being the focus of bonus.
Yeah,
versus
that's also
race.
where your ability score increases are coming from, is your background, which is interesting. I'm not opposed to that at all.
But they're going to have to put a lot more effort into all these backgrounds.
Not really, because they're you just make your own background. Here's a couple of templates. And that is...
So are they just going to get rid of... I mean, there's a lot of backgrounds now. So
Yeah,
are they just going to randomly go through and be like, look at this one, a +1 and a +1. This one gets a +2. I mean,
maybe, or they'll just make the ones that are in the player's handbook and then just be like, and you can make your own, and winky face. And then they quickly say, talk to your DM before disappearing in a puff of smoke.
I have an issue with this, and I know
what? No, not you, Chris. Not you, the saint.
Shut up. And it's not. I know it's people are going to be like, "Oh, the old guy has a problem with the whole racial bonuses going away." Well, yeah, I do. I'm sorry.
Don't worry, I have plenty to complain about in Spelljammer about racial stuff.
I know. I got the preview. I don't know. I think that one bonus should come from race, and one bonus could come from background. I think that's a great idea. Stripping the racial ability bonuses doesn't feel like...
You're like running away from the problem, not really addressing it.
Right. I mean, because of the background of the Drow, let's say, for example...
Drow?
Yeah, whatever. Dark Elves. And the connotations that it's always had in the past that they're trying to address now, it feels like an overreaction. They're like, oh, people get upset when we say that this race is automatically stupid. Orcs, they can't have a high intelligence, so we're not going to... Okay, I get it. No, they're not necessarily stupid, but they're going to have something as a basic race that's going to make them probably, let's say, stronger than someone like lizard folk. Who the hell would think that lizard folk would have a +1 in intelligence? That seems weird.
I don't remember lizard folk.
There's somebody that had. There's someone. Hobgoblin gets a +1.
Yeah, that's it.
Because it's their military background and skills in that arena.
I mean, I'm all for hobgoblins having bonus
so am I.
Intelligence.
I just feel like they're stripping a historical piece of the game that actually has relevance and importance. I understand why they're shifting away from it, but to strip it 100% away seems like an overcorrection. There were a bunch of other minor announcements. There were new releases that they've put on the calendar to be scheduled. The other one that I thought was fascinating that I've read a few articles about and watched a couple of videos about was D&D getting into the virtual tabletop business.
Finally.
I like it. Again, like I said with D&D Beyond, which I also predicted. Hey, I only get few things right when we do our podcast.
But this virtual tabletop is like TaleSpire, where it's like a 3D.
It is now. Yes, they
Unreal Engine thing. So like, how much time are DMs now expected to spend making maps?
Well, it depends on the back office. It depends how much you can integrate things into it. Are they going to create their own, let's say, dungeon draft so that you can build maps and integrate into them as an outside product? I don't know. But I do. But buying a third party makes sense. They did the same thing with D&D Beyond, which was perfect business strategy. They're doing it with this, and they're not going and buying. Oh, let's get Roll20. We already licensed with them. Roll20's garbage. I'm sorry, but we've used it. It's garbage. Going out and getting a new next generation virtual tabletop that's all the rage is the smart thing to do. You don't have to pay a bunch of developers. Maybe you could pay some decent artists and put them on your staff instead of, as contractors. It's the next step for the game, as everybody saw during COVID.
Okay, I run 3 groups.
I know.
And if I'm doing homebrew for a group, they're lucky if I spend 5 minutes trying to, think of one map instead of just drawing it off the top of my head. Well, in the middle of the session. I'm not spending hours and hours working on maps.
Well, I do, and I love it. You know that. Maps are my favorite thing now.
Yeah, but how many groups are you running? How many maps are you having to make every week?
Shut up. No, I mean, I know what they're going to have to do when they release it is go backwards and provide all those maps for all the old adventures.
Or you can buy them for the low price of...
Well, yeah, no. Provide all the maps by, I mean, like, if you want all the maps for, let's say, Mad Mage, yeah, $20. It's going to be like $59. There's so many freaking maps in there.
Well, they'll probably do the same thing that they did with the source books on D&D Beyond, which is You can buy it separate for $30,
Mhm.
or if you get the source book and the digital maps,
Yeah,
it'll only be $50.
Right. And
Ooh, think of the savings.
well, business strategy, and I think it's genius. I
Yeah,
do.
I'm not against it. I'm just saying, like, this is a great way for even more money to get funneled towards them.
Yeah, that's the whole point of running a business.
No, I understand that. It's just
Magic is starting to go downhill. It's their number one money driver, pretty much, I think, for Hasbro in general now. So they need...
It's not that I'm complaining that they're making money off the maps. What I'm complaining is they're going to be using a virtual tabletop system that encourages 3D maps, which will require even more work and load on the DM, who's already having to run the game and having to come up with everything else. And now you're expecting even more hours out of a DM when you're not even giving them the tools to run your game.
Okay, look. Maybe if you let me DM, which I have asked, and you weren't such a freaking control freak, you could be a player and then bitch a little less.
I don't like being the player.
No, because you just want to have all the control.
Well, no, because then someone else is running the game, and then I'm not constantly on, and then, like, my mind starts to wander, and I start looking at other things, and I get distracted really easily, Chris.
Then we'll just make it all about you. How about that?
Well, everything's already about me, Chris.
Great. And we're moving on. So
yeah.
Any other news?
Not really. I mean, we still got the movie coming out in March, which will be exciting. There's a bunch of new product releases staged for next year.
Was the big one.
Dragonlance is in December.
Planescape.
Well, I'm getting there.
Sorry.
So Dragonlance is the big thing coming out December, which you can go on WotC's website and pre-purchase this really expensive bundle. But you don't get the fancy cover. You get the regular cover, even though all of like the advertising images show the fancy cover.
Yeah.
And I don't know. I can't decide if I'm excited for Dragonlance or not.
Are there going to be third-party books? I thought didn't I read that they're writing another book? The original authors?
Yeah, they just came out with their first book in the series.
Oh, really?
It came out for Gen Con. They had a release party at Gen Con.
Oh. I just played games with my son the entire time. I didn't actually go to anything this year.
No.
So
yeah, Margaret Weiss was there, I think, all 4 days signing books and stuff. I almost bought a copy, but then I was like, oh, it's a physical book. I'd actually have to pick it up and read it.
Oh, my God. Just stop. Stop.
It's so heavy, and I had to turn each individual page.
I enjoy the feeling of the paper.
Me too. That's why I like to read books, but also, like, that's so time-consuming. I have other things I have to do, Chris.
It's
like, build
heavy.
these fucking maps.
Oh, God. I will build your maps. I like doing that.
No, then you'll know all the secret doors are. But
for your other campaigns, just shut up. Oh.
And so there's Dragonlance. Come March, to tie in with the Dungeons and Dragons movie, there is a book. I can't remember what it is. It's like something about thieves, but it's going to be like an anthology, kind of focused more towards heists or thievery adventures.
Okay. I don't want to go to the rabbit hole on this, but real quick, the name of the movie is Dungeons and Dragons: Honor Amongst Thieves.
Yes, and that's
there's no thieves in the party. If I'm looking, there's
a bard, a druid, a berserker.
Oh yeah, like a.
Hey, Chris, that's really way for you to be a class person.
It's
to support the classes. You can be a thief and still be a bard.
Well, yeah. So they all multi-classed as thieves. And then I don't know what I can't think of her name right now.
Oh, it might be
Fast
Vault
and
of
Furious.
Thieves.
She could be a thief, I guess. But yeah.
Yeah. So like the books like Vault of Thieves are on. I'm not doing research, Chris.
Yeah, no, I haven't obviously done that.
Two other books I can't remember because they mean nothing to me. And I'll be excited when we get closer there. And then at the end of the year, at the end of the 5e product cycle, small tier there, Planescape. We're finally getting a Planescape Manual of the Planes book. If it's anything like Spelljammer's, I will be utterly disappointed.
Well, make sure to put the link in.
Spoiler for our upcoming review.
Yeah, thank God they only have to wait a year. Make sure you put a link in the bottom of all of the.
There will be links to all this in the show notes. Planescape, I'm really excited for, but I mean, we got a lot to talk about with Spelljammers, and I'm trying not to let this become a 2-hour talking session between the two of us.
Then you should shut up. So let's move on to Spelljammer.
Spelljammer, Adventures in Space.
Is that the most excited you're going to sound for this?
Yeah, that's
out
pretty
of the
much.
whole podcast.
I mean, the artwork is fucking incredible everywhere. Like the artists did a phenomenal job.
You mean except for where they just basically recycled old art.
I don't really notice that much recycling.
Like the GIF on the in the monster portion.
Whatever.
Yeah, there was some recycling, but no, overall,
I mean, it's still good art from Mordecaians. I don't know what to tell you.
Yeah.
I can't help but notice that the cottage on a Kindori on like page 2 of Astral Adventurer's Guide looks like a Darth Vader helmet on top of the whale.
Okay. Oh yeah, no, I remember that. Yeah, that's a little weird.
Sorry. We'll actually get back to talking about the product. So Spelljammer Adventures in Space, for those who don't know, is a 3-book box set. Don't get excited. It's actually just one book that they split into 3 books for no reason.
You mean a 3 pamphlet?
Yeah.
With hardcovers?
Yeah, it's a 3 pamphlet hardcover box set. And you get a DM screen, which has about twice... Actually, it has the same amount of Spelljammer information as the literal Spelljammer information book does.
It's a lot. It's
so
a lot.
The artwork on it is very nice. It shows the picture of a dead god floating through the astral sea. There's some Spelljammers. There's some weird little astral dragon nonsense.
Is it to distract the players as you kill them slowly?
Yeah, pretty much.
Excellent.
So, I mean, I like the GM screen. I might just use that for our Pathfinder 2e game just because it's fancy.
Oh, great. Anyways, yeah.
So there's 3 books. Mm-hmm. They are each 64 pages, if I'm remembering correctly.
That's not a book.
Well, when you combine all 3 together, it's a single book. That's like half the size of the player's handbook.
They're calling each one a book. Anyways.
There's Astral Adventurer's Guide, which is all the information you need for spelljamming, minus all of the helpful information that would help you run a spelljamming campaign.
Yeah.
It also has player options. Very, very few player options.
No.
The second book is Light of Xarxis?
I don't know. I didn't read it. I'll be honest. I didn't read that one.
I did not read the adventure closely. I kind of read through, flipped around, and just had a general idea what the adventure was about. So I did not do a deep reading. Our focus is more on Spelljammer itself and not the adventure.
Well, I didn't want to read the adventure to ruin in case I played it. That's my excuse.
Okay.
Or I was just too lazy.
And then in my opinion, star of the show is Boo's Astral Menagerie.
I agree with you 100% on that.
Which has all of your monsters.
And a giant hamster. A really pissed off hamster in the front
miniature giant space hamster.
Oh, it's awesome.
Which has, I forget how many monsters this was. It was one.
I can't count that high.
Yeah. I mean, it's 64 pages, so it's probably about 40 monsters.
Yeah, but the picture on, I mean, we got the nice books.
Yes, we got the fancy copy.
The hamster on the front of Boo's is angry. I mean, he is angry. He's gonna bite the shit out of you with those 2 little front buck teeth.
Stole his food.
Yeah, exactly.
So we're gonna begin, like all great adventures, with the Adventurer's Guide, the Astral Adventurer's Guide.
Yep.
The first sentence lets you know that the astral plane is the plane of stars, which is new for me, I guess. I can't remember any other edition that called the astral plane the plane of stars. It's been known as like the Silver Sea, the Astral Sea, the Silvery Void.
I've always called it the Astral Sea. Yeah, I mean,
I guess it makes sense because right now, for those who don't know, the astral plane is a transitive plane. It is a plane where you transition from one plane to another. Mm-hmm. It is when you teleport. Technically, you are briefly in the astral plane before arriving at your destination. Or when you plane shift from the material plane to the outer planes, you briefly go through the astral sea and then appear on the other plane that you're trying to reach.
So why don't you explain then how about this? Let's start with you have a planet, you have Wildspace, and then you have Astral yes. Sea. What are those 3?
So there's different cosmologies, and 5e is introducing a whole new cosmology for the astral plane.
Marvel's multiverse, great.
So originally, the astral plane was all by itself, and then Wildspace, which is what you sail around in a Spelljammer, was its own thing, and the material plane was this massive plane where all of the planets were there. There was space as we know it, kind of the space that we have, and then all of the not sure, universe or like a solar system
Yep.
was inside of a massive crystal sphere. In between the crystal spheres, the different worlds, there was the phlogiston, which was these rivers of proto-matter that connected all the worlds together. They weren't always direct. Sometimes you had to go from one crystal sphere to the next crystal sphere to the next one to kind of like zigzag your way to the one you wanted to go to.
What edition is this from?
This is from 2nd edition,
Holy.
where Spelljammers originally came out from.
I obviously didn't read that close enough. So, continue.
And the astral plane was by itself. It didn't touch anything to do with the phlogiston or the crystal spheres or anything like that. It just stayed as a transitive plane. To be fair to the astral plane, not a lot of reason to go to it in that edition, except for some fun chicanery and tomfoolery. Now, the interesting thing about that, which I understand why they didn't carry over to this, was when you left the crystal sphere, clerics lost access to their gods, and so they couldn't cast, or they couldn't renew their spell slots while they're out in the phlogiston. And while you're out in the phlogiston, it could be months that you're out there traveling to the next crystal sphere. 2E had a really odd idea about travel, where it's like most of this game is getting a large enough caravan to carry enough rations to get you to the next place, because it's going to be like 3D 12 years before you get there. The ethereal plane's really bad for that, where it's like, yeah, you're probably going to spend 99 months traveling or like walking in the ethereal plane. It's like, why?
That's a lot of random encounter rolls.
I assume most people ignored that because that's not the fun part of D&D.
All right, so fast forward to the 5th edition.
So 3rd edition kind of kept that, though they didn't really touch on Spelljammer, so we don't have anything to go there. 4E got rid of Wildspace, sort of. They didn't really touch on Wildspace, so who knows. What they did do is put all the Spelljammers into the astral plane, and then you sailed around the astral plane. There were the gods' domains that you would visit instead of like planets or asteroids or things of that nature. And like Githyanki had like their Spelljammer ships and things of that nature. Mm-hmm. And so you would like sail around the astral sea, and that was it. 5e kind of combines all of that. So there is our planet, or like the planet. Mm-hmm. We can say like the Forgotten Realms planet, right. Plural. And then once you go out from that planet, you then enter that planet's Wildspace system or solar system, where you have all of its different moons. You have like that central sun. Yep. And when you leave that area, you then enter what is known as... I
thought that was the Astral Sea.
Yeah, so that you enter the Astral Sea. So every single like Wildspace system or solar system is the Wildspace. It is, the void. It is what we consider space to be, where there is no air or anything like that. And you're traveling hundreds of millions of miles in between each planet.
So you have your planet. Yep. You have your galaxy.
Yeah, which is Wildspace.
Then you have the universe.
Well, there aren't. So,
there's multiple galaxies in our universe.
Correct. So you don't really have galaxies or universes. It's more like you have your solar system, and then once you leave, you then enter the astral sea. You head over to another solar system. Right. And
I mean, that's just the comparison that seems the most logical to me. I know it's not exact, but...
Yeah, so I guess like galaxies would be the astral sea.
Perfect. Okay.
And so you're kind of sailing around here, there. It's kind of melding all of the cosmologies of the previous editions, which I appreciate. I understand why they're doing that. It makes some sense to me. There are some other things I have issues with, like now on the astral plane, when you leave it, you don't automatically age all of the missing time that you spent there.
It's Star Trek warp field, so don't question it.
Yeah. I mean, actually, the astral plane, there's a huge convoluted time thing. Different editions disagree about how time passes on the astral plane, so we won't talk about that.
Okay. But I think that's a good place to start, because that tells you that's the 3 pieces of the puzzle that you really need to know if you're going to play Spelljammer.
Yeah, and that's the main information here. So now that we have a general idea as to what astral plane and the Wildspace is,
we'll have to get, because when we get into Wildspace versus Astral Sea, there's some topics that obviously need to be talked about with air bubbles and weird shit. So
Yeah.
we can cut back to character options if you like.
Yes. So we'll go ahead and start at the beginning of the book, chapter 1, after they go over like terminology and what actually is an astral plane versus Wildspace. For character options, we're looking at 2 backgrounds, 6 races, 2 spells, and 3 magic items. Don't buy this book if you're only looking for character options.
Yeah, no shit.
It is amazing to me. They only have 2 spells and 3 magic items for Spelljammers. When like the 2 ebooks, like you could just copy and paste wholesale from there and just have books of stuff.
Yeah.
And it's not like they have to ask anyone for the rights. They own DSR.
I know. It's a shame, but it's giving them an opportunity to maybe do it later. But WotC's not about doing all the crazy supplements that they used to do. So I don't know. I mean, hey, It's up to the DM to make them.
And before we actually begin in character options, because we said flip over to character options, the pages are really thick in this book.
Oh, God, here we go.
The pages are a bit too thick, because every time I grab them to turn the page, I'm like, oh, nope, I got like 5 pages. Let me put them back. No, it's because like these pages are like twice as thick as like their normal pages to like boost up the book a little bit to make it a little bit thicker.
Just stop. Just talk about character options, all right?
Just complaint there, because then people would really realize how small these books are.
I remember about 3 books ago, you were like, oh, God, spend some more money on like, making these books better. The bindings are horrible, blah. Maybe they did.
Maybe they did. Or they just tried to make the books look a little thicker than they actually are.
Well, whatever.
So, the 2 backgrounds are Astral Drifter.
And Wildspacer.
Yep. So you've either come into contact with a divine being or you just wander Wildspace.
Meh.
Yeah, it's neither of the backgrounds are really exciting to me, though they are doing the new style where you get a minor feat for your background feature. So like divine or Astral Drifter, you get the Magic Initiate feat. And you have to pick Cleric because you came across a god, which based off of the list they gave was Forgotten Realms, I think Norse, Greyhawk, and maybe one. No, I think it was just Forgotten Realms, Greyhawk, and Norse. So
yeah, we won't get into Greyhawk.
It's never gonna happen, Chris. Give up.
I know.
The other one's Wildspacer, where you get the tough feat. Woo! How exciting!
I like the tough feat. I do.
It's so boring.
Yeah, but it's good with lower levels.
God, it's so boring.
Anyways.
And you had a close encounter with a random spooky Spelljammer monster, like a Beholder or a Neogi or a Mind Flayer or a Dragon.
Yeah. Bad guy.
Or a Vampire.
Yeah, you know what? Certain creatures are bad guys. They're always going to be bad guys.
And so after you pick one of those 2 backgrounds, or you pick a background from another book, you get to create your character with the new way of doing races, where you pick your own ability score increases, you pick your own languages, creature type.
Pick everything yourself. Yay.
Yeah, pretty much. Ask your DM, basically.
Boo.
So the options for the character races are Astral Elf,
Excellent.
Auto Gnome,
Stupid.
Gif,
Excellent.
Hadazi,
Really stupid.
Plasmoid,
Odo from Deep Space Sun,
Thryking, Crane,
Grasshoppers.
Okay. Wait, you really thought Astral Elf was good? We'll begin with the Astral Elf.
Yeah, better than some of the other ones. I mean, I'm sick of
It's just a friggin' elf.
There's so many elves. A really, really old elf.
Uh-huh. It's just an elf. And also they went lazy with it, where all they did was give it a free Misty Step, basically, equal to your proficiency bonus every day.
Look,
why are all these elves getting teleportation magic?
I don't know, but
you got the Eldrin if you really want that. We don't have to give it to every friggin' elf.
But compared to the other options, it's probably the second best. So
I don't know. It's just lazy mechanical writing right now. It's just like, people like to teleport for free. We'll give it to them.
Yeah, but
which, if every single player has teleportation options, and like that just removes obstacles that a GM can put in your way. It's like there's a 30-foot cavern in front of you, or like chasm, and then they're like, I Misty Step, I Starlight Step. It's like, I'm sorry, I meant 50-foot chasm. Like, it's just, I don't know. I'm getting tired of so many teleportation nonsense just because it trivializes so much.
Yeah, I do like the art for the Astral Elf, especially the one. If you look at Booze, it's I forget what the title is, but obviously the hunter with the bow. I think that's sweet.
Okay. Yeah, with like the weird helmet.
Yeah, I like that. Very outer spacey, but very, still elf. So,
I mean, it's an elf. It's whatever. It doesn't interest me at all.
well, elves were a huge...
It's just human, but pointy ears.
But they were the dominant race in the original Spelljammer. Elves were the badasses. They had the biggest armies. They had the flying citadels.
Are they?
Oh, yeah.
I don't remember.
They were the ones that basically kicked every evil race's ass that went through. They were the keepers of everything. They were the Federation.
I could have done without them.
Yeah, okay.
Wait. So are they like the Stormtroopers?
No, they're not the Empire. Jesus, get your space stuff right. TV shows and movies. I don't know. I can skip that because they're dumb.
What is the autonym, Chris?
You're a robot.
A robot?
Yeah, you're number one, you're a robot. Number two, worst art I've ever seen in my fucking life. Really? I want to be one of these things? No, I don't.
You're just not fun, Chris.
I don't know. The Warforged was great as a construct. This, I don't like it. I would never play one. Anyways, that's personal opinion. The next one is the best race ever.
Oh, I have issues with the GIF. So the autognome is created by gnomes. You're basically just a
gnome
clockwork creature. Yeah. You are considered a construct, which is interesting, but then they, because like at first you're like, oh, but what about cure wounds or those things that don't affect constructs? And it's like, oh no, actually you can be healed by them because of course we want to make it too challenging to play a construct. Chris doesn't like fun.
No, I don't, apparently. Let's move on to the GIF.
Okay. GIF.
What's your problem with my GIF here? Come on.
Okay. So, the GIF, since Spelljammers, when they were first introduced, were all about firearms and, like, their culture was all about firearms and explosives and things of that nature. And then there's been this big thing in 5e to remove culture from like, a race's abilities that you get. And so they showed off the GIF in, like, a UA, and people were like, how come the GIF doesn't have firearms? They always have firearms. So their solution to the... Well, it's not a cultural thing.
Yeah, okay,
but we have to include
dumb.
firearms.
Yeah, I'll admit.
They have a divine connection to firearms because apparently there's a GIF pantheon, even though there was never a GIF pantheon before. And in fact, they never even worshipped a god. But now they have a divine connection to guns, which is... sorry, I wrote it down.
Which is ridiculous. I will get a mystical connection
WotC is
to firearms.
avoiding adding in cultural abilities to races, but they just made it worse by claiming GIF have a special connection to firearms thanks to GIF gods. The GIF don't have gods and don't even worship canonically. This is just lazy chicanery. Now it's just predetermination, which is what they were trying to avoid by adding in typically to all alignments, even fiends and celestials.
Jesus, that's a good line. I'm glad you wrote it down.
Well, so... They were like, okay, everyone wants GIFs to have firearms. Oh, we can't say it's a cultural thing. Instead, we'll just be like, yeah, no, you're just magically into firearms.
It's holy. Okay, so I get that. So here's the thing. Yeah, I would agree with you. When I first read the UI, I was like, are you freaking kidding me? There's no firearms. That is just dumb. I understand the cultural implications in the real world about talking with guns in our society in the United States. Let's not go there. But why not just make it gunpowder or things that go boom? Because that would require them to write a whole new set of mechanics for bombs because they half-ass it in the Dungeons Master.
Well, my opinion is this is a campaign settings guide. Ergo, you're going to have culture involved because it's a campaign setting. Yeah. It's okay to give them cultural things and then have a sidebar saying, hey, this is the culture within the setting. If you're putting this somewhere else, choose something else to put there.
Yeah, no, culture's a 4-letter word right now, which is a shame because culture is how people define themselves a lot of times.
I mean, just say in the culture of Spelljammers, GIF really like guns.
It doesn't have to be guns.
If you're going to put, or like firearms or black powder.
Things that go boom.
Yeah, things that go boom. If you're putting this in your own world, think about how GIF might work in that area or in your world and then adjust things as needed. Just put like a helpful sidebar. Yeah. That's all you gotta do.
You mean give the DM more work?
I mean, it is more work, but also it's like this is
staying true to the actual
campaign settings guide. There's going to be cultural things there because you are giving a pre-written setting with its own culture to a DM.
Mm-hmm.
And this is what they're signing up for, is learning more about the culture of these creatures in this setting.
Yeah.
Not all elves work the same way. Not all gnomes are going to be the same in each world. Mm-hmm. And so if you just tell people, hey, this is a cultural thing, you'll have to adjust it for your world, or think, do you want to adjust it for your world?
Right. Well, that goes back to the whole argument of how far the pendulum swung right now on that. Well, no, let's not get into that. I wouldn't have. I still love the GIF. Mm-hmm. If they had wanted to take firearms out, because from a few things I read, that was another big issue. Guns. They were like, we don't want to talk about guns. Guns are a bad thing right now. Agree on that with a lot of levels. Then just give them what they used to have, which was kegs filled with gunpowder that they hurled at people.
Those are called Molotov cocktails.
Yes. I mean, give them what do they carry around? Oh, they don't have a gun on their pocket, but they have just mini kegs. They have grenades. That's fine. Okay, I'm good with that.
Or just don't even. I don't know.
You
could just really, if you just want to avoid it entirely, just don't talk about anything, but in all the artwork, you can show them with firearms.
Yeah, I like it. And plus, now that firearms are a part of the game, just give them proficiency in them. Hint, hint. Yeah. That's what you want to go with. Anyways, I still like them.
Yeah, I mean, they're fine. Their special ability where they get their proficiency bonus on one attack's damage a number of times equal to their proficiency bonus per day is boring.
Well, they have a swim speed, which I think is great, but
I mean, that is fun, but I don't know.
They should give them
kind of boring.
They should give them a bite attack. Did you know hippos have the crushing power of their jaw is the strongest of all animals?
There are more fatalities by hippos than sharks.
Yeah,
every year,
their jaws are the strongest.
It's probably all gifts shooting them.
Probably. All right, Hadozi.
Hadozi are cool.
No,
the
they're
issue
really not.
Though is they have an infinite move glitch because they can glide for free. Let me go ahead and read this to you. If you are not incapacitated or wearing heavy armor, you can extend your skin membranes and glide. When you do so, you can perform the following aerial maneuvers. You can move up to 5 feet horizontally for every 1 foot you descend in the air at no movement cost. When you would take damage from a fall, you can use your reaction to reduce the fall's damage to 0. The issue is that you can dimension door 500 feet up and then glide forward 2,500 feet in a single turn. So you can roughly go half a mile in 6 seconds, or, in other words, 284 miles per hour or 457 kilometers per hour.
Holy shit, did you read this somewhere, or did you figure this out on your own?
Both, yes.
It's... Oh... okay. Again, your brain works differently.
So
awesome.
You can kind of be like, well, they can only, because you have to fall 1 feet for every 5 feet forward that you want to glide forward. Xanathar states the first round you drop 500 feet. Mm-hmm. Every round after that, it's 1,000 feet per round. So that basically translates to 2,500 feet your first round, and then 5,000 feet every round after that. So, you dimension door up for that first round, you shoot forward incredibly fast, you dimension door up again, and now you just keep flying, just shooting forward. And I don't know how fast you have to go to break the sound barrier. But
I'm so glad you do the math for us. I just think they're ugly. Anyways.
How fast to break the sound barrier? 770 miles. They're too slow.
Okay, let's okay, so they're broken.
Yeah, well, literally unplayable. They're too slow. You can't break the sound barrier with them. I feel like since they're going that fast, parts of them should start flying off. I guess at what speed do you have to go before the human body breaks down from the intense speed?
I don't know. DMs get to choose. I don't know. The art depicts them as nothing like I thought they would, and it just kind of ruins it for me on top of that. So I don't know. I don't like them. Not my favorite. Plasmoid, great. Another changeling character.
Yes. I guess we can talk about plasmoids now. I don't have anything broken about the plasmoids. They're boring to me.
It's just a changeling.
Yeah, well, you can't change your looks. You're still a plasmoid.
It's a
You're just an ooze
blob.
boy. You can grow arms and legs and a human head, and then you can wear armor, or you can be a blob and
feels like a reaction quote / steal from
It's
from Pathfinder.
I mean, it's better than just more elves or just like color change palettes for humans. Like, at least it's a different thing than just, I'm a human but green. Well, I'm a human but I have pointy ears.
Once we get into...
I'm a human but short and drink a lot.
Yeah, once we get into booze, I'll pick out a couple of the creatures in there that I thought would have made better races than some of the ones they had here. Anyways. Okay.
Yeah, I mean, that's fair.
Not a fan.
There's the Thri-kreen, which originally were in Dead Sons. I don't know their relationship to Spelljammer.
They were a original creature that did have some spell gems specific to them, but nothing great. I mean, how much can you expect to do?
I feel like they were just kind of like a side, kind of like they were just there.
They were thrown into, I think they weren't one of the core creatures. They were like, they appeared in one of the adventures, and there weren't that many. They're giant grasshoppers.
So that's the end of those character options, which now brings us to Chapter 2, Astral Adventuring, which will include the 2 spells and the 3 magic items.
Okay, first off, I just got to say, when you go into the picture of the fight with the beholders and the ship ramming...
Oh, it's exciting.
That's actually awesome. I love that piece of art.
I mean, the artwork is amazing throughout these books. And that's just like my inner, like, Spelljammer.
Yeah, no, I mean, but, yeah.
And then I read the book, and then it goes, oh, Spelljammer.
All right, I'm going to start.
So, yeah, we'll go ahead and start. I'll skip my first note about how you no longer age in the Astral. So, this has the basic information, and emphasis on basic information, about how spelljamming works. It is, in my opinion, incredibly bare bones. They didn't even, like, copy and paste vehicle combat from like Descent into Avernus and Ghosts of Saltmarsh into this book, which you kind of need. You kind of need that information because you don't even like, what's a damage threshold? Oh, it doesn't tell you. So now you need to buy Ghosts of Saltmarsh or Descent into Avernus to use the ship combat rules from those books.
Do you mean it doesn't explain what?
Yeah, like it doesn't explain anything about like ships or how they work. Mm-hmm. Instead, it's just general overview. So we have speed, which is you move at 100 million miles in 24 hours. So
no more 90 D10s months in the Astral Sea. I mean, it's big, but
even in second edition, you still traveled 100 million miles per day. Mm-hmm. It's just because crystal spheres moved around from each other. Like you never knew how many days it was going to take. The issue is when you enter an object's air envelope, you immediately slow down to your fly speed.
Spelljammer, the helm does it automatically.
Yeah, it automatically does it for you whenever you get close within like a 1-ton object or an object with its own gravity field and air envelope. Mm-hmm. That's more than 1 ton. And so, like you'll slow down for asteroids or for another Spelljammer or for a moon or a planet or the sun, so you don't just like collide through it.
The physics on that have to be weird because...
Yeah, I mean, it's magic. Whatever. We'll hand wave it. The issue is, though, the way air envelopes work is that they are whatever the longest plane on an object is, mm-hmm. They are that much longer. So if you're looking at a ball that's like 2 feet across, the air envelope will be 2 feet across or like extends out from the ball 2 feet in every direction.
Yep.
So that largely makes the ball 6 feet wide with its air envelope on all sides.
Math. Okay, good.
Yeah. So it's 6 feet across for like a ball like that. And so then you extend that to like a planet. Earth is 8,000 mile diameter, which means it has an air envelope of 8,000 miles around it.
Yeah, it's called our atmosphere.
Yeah, so it makes 24,000 miles from end to end to get from one side to the other at like the thickest portion of the air envelope. Okay. A Spelljammer might be 180 feet, and so long, but only like maybe 50 feet tall. So it will take that 180 feet and stretch it. So it will become, 180 times 3, which is 540 feet wide.
What? I just woke up. It's math.
Whatever.
Okay.
So that's your air envelope. It creates this kind of like oblong or spherical shape around you. Mm-hmm. The issue is when you drop out of 100 billion miles per day travel, you're then stuck with a really slow fly speed when you're talking about thousands of miles, because you cannot do the 100 million miles through the air envelope of another object. So if you're trying to reach, I don't know, say the planet Earth, you have to fly through its air envelope at its normal speed. The normal speed for a Spelljammer ranges from 30 feet per round to 70 feet per round. So that's 3.5 miles per hour or 8 miles per hour. And where you have to fly through 8,000 miles of an air envelope to reach Earth, which I've done the math. So leaving the atmosphere of Earth, 8,000 mile diameter, and you have to go through 8,000 miles of air envelope so you can get to 100 million mile per hour or per day speeds. It would take you 95 days on the slowest ship at 3.5 miles per hour. On the fastest ship, it would take you 41 days at 8 miles per hour to leave the air envelope.
So what you're saying is impulse speed is too slow. You can't use warp speed to go through that because it's too fast, but you just need to increase the impulse speed. You won't have any idea what rest
the individual ship's fly speed. I don't know if they actually plan for you to spend over a month trying to leave the air envelope. But again, you're traveling at like 35 feet per round. They didn't
plan anyone doing the math.
Just slowly watching a ship rise up into the air. And sure, it looks fast, but also at the same time, it's like, wow, you're going real slow. You're never going to escape the air envelope. All right. And like a week later, you'll be like, yep, still trying to fly away from us.
They like I said, they really didn't want people to do math.
But like the DM is told to determine how long it's going to take for you to leave the air envelope. And if you go by the numbers they provide, never. That's when you're leaving the air envelope. You're never leaving. Or maybe that's why these worlds are never contacted, and so like you only go to like like floating asteroids or like tiny little rocks, because it's like, well, otherwise we have to spend like 2 months trying to escape the planet's air envelope.
Keep going. Gotcha. You don't like that.
So previous Spelljammers, it was hundreds of feet that you moved, which was much better.
So just take a 0, add it to the end of each ship's speed, and you're good with it.
Maybe that'd still take a long time.
2 zeros.
But yeah, so that's
math.
I don't know if that's their intention.
I don't do math, so
I don't think it is.
No,
but I don't know.
Keep going. Fine. Speeds blow.
Get more information about gravity planes, air envelopes, and then we get information about how the astral plane works in this edition, which is fine. It's how we said before, where you have your planets, you have the Wildspace system that surrounds the solar system, basically, and then it extends into the astral sea, where there can be like the bodies of dead gods or the astral dominions of gods and things of that nature out in the astral, which is taking 4E cosmology. But then you're like, but I thought the gods existed on the outer planes, which is outside the astral plane. And it's like, well, they do, but they also live on the astral plane,
which is, well, they're dead on the astral plane.
Well, but no, there's dead gods there, but you can have astral dominions where the gods reside. But the souls of dead people, petitioners, canonically, I guess it changes for this, can't go to the astral sea.
They're dead bodies.
I mean, actually, they technically can. They're the souls of dead bodies. I can't remember if they can leave the outer planes or not.
Anyways,
if they do leave their plane, they're destroyed forever.
How about just be happy that they actually mentioned the dead gods?
That's fair. I do like dead gods,
right?
And astral dominions, and
it's actually a shout out to the older editions that hadn't been done before.
Oh, the Dead Gods, yes. Yeah.
So there you go.
I mean, that's on the cover of the Dead Gods adventure book, which I can link again there. So yeah, you have all that fun information. And if you were wondering to yourself, man, I can't wait to make a Wildspace system of my homebrew world, I bet they have a lot of information on how I can do that. Oh, they have 3 sentences that tell me to look at what they've already done. Okay.
So it's
not like I need to be told to look at what they've already done before.
It's hard enough to create like just a single world, let alone, I'm going to make a whole galaxy now. That just
Yeah.
At that point, just forget it and go play Blades in the Dark.
Here's what I actually made some homebrew about how to create a Wildspace system because this was so depressing to me. But really, creating a Wildspace system is even worse than useless, in my opinion. It is actively condescending, assuming that the reader wouldn't automatically look at what WotC's already created to make their Wildspace system.
Yeah, but they don't care. They want you to use the existing ones they have. I mean, they have Forgotten Realms, which is one.
No, they don't, because the existing systems are Exarchus Space and Doomspace, which have half a page to a page of information in the adventure book. They don't tell you what the Realm Space looks like. They don't tell you what Greyhawk Space looks like. It is...
Oh, I just assumed that was...
No.
They just... said that somewhere.
It's what tiny little bit of information you get from the adventures, which I read through, which took me like half a minute to do because they only gave you information in regards to the adventure and they don't tell you anything else because it doesn't have an impact on the adventure. Oh, so it's just them being assholes saying like, look what we've already done. It's like, of course we're going to look at what you've already done. You don't have to waste 3 sentences to tell us that. And give us nothing else to help. I could complain for hours about this.
Keep going.
So, the other thing is you get 2 new spells, Air Bubble, so you can breathe outside in Wildspace where there is no air for 24 hours. Mm-hmm. And then creating your own Spelljamming helm, which is 5,000 gold to do, in case you're wondering how expensive it was to get a ship.
Going back to your math real quick.
Yeah.
So, if you can't ever leave Wildspace, given the speed you're going, you're just dead because your air bubble is going to run out of air.
Your ship has an air bubble.
Yeah, but it has a
which will last for about 120 days. And you share the planet's air envelope while you're within their air envelope.
Otherwise, you were screwed.
Yeah, so once you finally, after 2 months of flying, you finally leave the air bubble. You now have your own air bubble, and you have 120 days to reach another planet.
Great.
And since you're moving at 100 million miles per day, you can probably reach another planet by the time your air goes shitty.
Yeah.
And then you have another 120 days of just being slightly poisoned with foul air before your air gets so dangerous that it actively kills you.
I'm sure you pay attention to that. People really, that's like, okay. And I'm sure you also have 120 days worth of rations on your ship too, but let's not go there.
I mean, it doesn't specify that, but I mean, like the air, like it just,
it's one of those
good, nice round number to think of.
I know, but it's something no one's going to pay attention to. It's like rations.
You got the Spelljamming helm. It only costs you 5,000 gold. So it's a crystal rod worth 5,000 gold that you have to use as part of casting the spell, and it consumes the material. And a lot of people are like, that's way too cheap. And I'm with them. That is way incredibly cheap. And they're like, well, no one says that the DM just has to give you a crystal rod worth 5,000 gold. And it's like, well, the crystal rod doesn't even say it's like a rare crystal rod or an it's just a crystal rod.
Well,
and then you can buy a Spelljamming helm for 7,500 gold or 10,000 gold. So it's like, why are these so cheap?
Well, 2 things. One, it's not specified in the actual ships that a helm comes with a ship. It's assumed, and that's great. But I mean, a ship's gonna run you 20,000 on the cheap. So if you have to throw maybe a helm on top of it, like I said, there's nothing that specifies it. So it feels like an add-on.
At least a 1-ton object that you have to throw the Spelljamming helm on.
Yeah. Funny other thing about the Spelljammer helm, when I was back way in the day when I actually played a little bit of Spelljammer in 2E, I never really read it too detailed. I always thought like a helm, like it was this crazy like helmet that the person put on with like crazy wires.
You get a
sticking
fancy
out
chair.
Of it. You get a throne that you sit on, and I am your god.
Ow. But also, I mean, like, Chris, if you don't even have to buy a boat, though. You could just drag the Spelljamming helm onto someone else's boat. What are they going to do when you're 35 feet above them, slowly taking off into the stratosphere? Like, fuck you, I got my ship.
Well, but at the same time, if someone runs over to it, then you have you have chair combat, basically.
Well, you have to have a second Spelljamming helm to have chair combat.
Yeah, I mean, if they have a helm.
No, this is just a random person who's like sailing, and you're just like, I'm going to steal their galleon. And you drag your chair onto their ship, and then you fly off while they're yelling at you. The magic items are Spelljamming helm, surprise, a fish suit, which is just a space suit.
Mm-hmm. It's basically it's a 1960s spacesuit.
Yeah. And then there's the Wildspace orrery, which just, when you arrive in a Wildspace system, it automatically populates with all the planets and their positioning and things like that. Yeah. It's just a fancy map. The only thing I want to talk about with spelljamming ships and ship-to-ship combat is repairing a ship is expensive. You can repair 1 hit point of damage to a berthed ship over the course of 1 day and costs 20 gold for materials and labor.
Or,
well, a ship like the Bombard has 300 hit points. So that's really expensive to fix until you read down to the next paragraph, which is the mending cantrip.
Yeah, I know.
Is a cheaper and less time-consuming way to make repairs. Casting mending on a damaged ship or shipboard weapon restores a number of hit points to the target equal to 1d8 plus a spellcaster's spellcasting ability modifier. The target can regain hit points from that spell no more than once per hour. So what you're telling me is a cantrip is way better than like skilled laborers?
Yes.
What's the point in having people skilled in fixing ships?
Nothing.
Just have a single first level wizard at a space dock and be done with it. It's I have something written down.
I know you
It's
do.
infuriating how little thought is there for fixing a ship. Except in the adventure, there is a misprint that a wizard has in their spell book for repair object, which is a spell which points to this book, but it got removed from this book. So maybe they had something, but then took it out. So now it's just purposeful to make magic way better than everything else, like always in this 5th edition game.
Well,
magic, low, tiny powered spells. Mending was only supposed to be for like minor cracks or like a tear in clothes.
Yeah.
And instead, you're basically obliviating anywhere from like 20 gold to like 140 gold or more in ship repair costs and recovering, like 1 to 13 hit points or 14 hit points in like a single go of it. Like,
well, two things.
It's a cantrip.
2 things on that. I agree. Cantrip's way
Could have been like the fabricate spell.
Yes, it's way too powerful for a cantrip. However, they needed to figure out some way to do it when you're traveling through space, because they say a damaged ship can only be fixed basically at a dry dock.
Hey, there's plenty of space where they could have kept in the repair
Yes.
object spell.
Especially since
they could have just kept in.
Okay, so the damage to your ship, let's say, is on the bottom of it. Gravity plane allows you to walk down and then walk over, and then you repair the ship that way. You want to keep mending spell? Fine. It's 1 hit point. 1 hit point, maybe
once per day.
And then, hey, you can actually repair your ship during your flight, but it's also going to require someone to have the skill, the tools, and...
They should have switched it. So it's 1 hit point for the mending spell once per day. And then if you actually have skilled artisans, it's 1d8 plus their proficiency bonus once per day. And it's still, you can still just say it's 20 gold for that 1d8 plus proficiency bonus to fix it. Or 20 gold for each hit point. I don't care which one. But, why do we keep going out of... why does WotC keep going out of the way and just making magic the answer to everything?
Well,
it's infuriating.
Except for the fact that when the player who's the skilled artisan has to spend all their fucking time fixing the goddamn ship because the person that's using the Spelljammer helm doesn't know how to drive the thing, and you get pissed off because you can't do anything else, and I'm done with my rant because we're playing a Pathfinder campaign, and that's all I've been doing ever since.
Chris is upset that the pirate ship keeps being used as a weapon and breaking.
We don't even have a ram! All right, keep going.
Yeah, but then you'd have to fix the ram. So then, so that brings us to the end of Spelljammer information.
Well, we have all the ships.
Well, we now have taking up so there's 64 pages of information in this book, and how many pages is that? That's 31 pages of
awesome
Spelljammers. Yes, which is awesome. If the book had more information for everything else, instead it's 1 page is dedicated to an entire ship map, which is cool. It's interesting. What am I doing with this? Again, ship-to-ship combat is nothing.
Yeah, but I'm the player and I want to know what my ship looks like.
And then there is, on the opposite page from it, it's half a page of artwork, which the artwork is holy shit.
Yeah.
This is
it's fucking fantastic.
Like, each ship looks amazing, and I want to fly all of them. And then below it, it's a tiny little, not even a stat block.
Well, yeah.
It's a summary, and it's useless information. Well, not useless. It has the armor class for the ship, the hit points, the damage threshold, their fly speed, which is garbage.
Yeah, I know.
How much cargo they can carry, the crew, how long it is, and then the cost to buy that ship.
If you want to read...
Well, I don't know if that includes a Spelljamming helm or not. I'm going to assume it does. And that's the thing.
I don't think it does. It doesn't specify it. If you want to add, it does. But I would assume it does.
I assume if you're buying a Shrike ship or a Night Spider, you're getting a Spelljamming helm too with it, or else it's not really a complete ship.
Yeah. Well, if you want to read more about the ships and the lore behind each ship from the early editions, I wrote on them. So
there will be a link to Chris's article.
Not that you read them.
So, I mean, I already know all these ships, Chris. I don't know what to tell you.
Yeah, but you know the lore, you don't know the ships.
Okay.
But because they've made some interesting changes to some of the ships and then just kept the other ones exactly the same, which is cool. They're missing a couple really cool ships. I'm currently working on creating some homebrew for the missing ships from... There were probably 30 to 40 ships back in the day.
Don't think that they have the Kobold Spelljammer ship I gave you guys.
What was the trailer? Was it for Baldur's Gate? One of the first or second trailers that came out where the Nautiloid was just
I think that was the first
zipping through, going through the portal they could create, the different universes.
Oh, no, that might have been the second one.
Yeah, that ship is terrifying. It has been terrifying ever since 2E. The art on it is freaking crazy good, and it's a ship full of mind flayers. That's
good.
That's amazing yet terrifying at the same time.
Screw you,
it's
barbarian
so awesome.
Animal wolf totem or bear totem barbarians who are resistant to all damage except psychic.
Yeah, no crap. They are. If you didn't figure it out, they're real big on ships being like looking like fish or animals. It was just the they're based off of what they were in 2E.
Or the Tyrant ship, which is just a massive round thing that's filled with beholders.
Yeah, you just run away when you see one of those. But
I mean, the Bombard's the best one because that's the gift ship, and it's a huge cannon with a boat strapped to it.
Yeah, pretty much. The thing that... All right, first off, I do miss the pyramid ship because it's basically a giant pyramid floating through space. It was
we're not going to get it, Chris, because they're not doing any more Spelljammers.
I'm making it at the moment. It's going to take forever, but it reminds me of Stargate. It's what I picture, them flying around in. There's a part in here where they write about, hey, these ships are used for X. Great. Every ship, it can be a warship, it can be a pirate ship, or it can be a trader's ship. It's the same thing over and over and over again. Why? Either don't put that in there or say, hey, this ship is not a trader ship because you know what? It has such a small cargo hold, it makes no sense. No, every ship can be like that. There should be pirate ships. Don't talk about conversions. Conversions will cost way too much money. Pirates like, the Bombard because they have lots of weapons on them. Or that would be a warship. Flat, straight and simple. I don't know. That seemed like a waste of space, but I do love the love the spaceships.
They could have definitely added more information there, but it is what it is. The last part of the book is 6 pages on the Rock of Brawl, which is just kind of like
why.
The Rock of Brawl was a big thing in Spelljammer's 2E, so they're just bringing it back as a place for you to have your Spelljamming adventures. If you don't want to immediately start giving the players Spelljammers to fly around in, you want to start them off small, then this is a good way for them to slowly earn their Spelljammer while still being in Spelljammers, the setting.
It felt weird. It felt tacked on at the end.
It kind of is.
Yeah. So, anyways.
It's I don't even think the adventure touches on it, so it's just there. It's weird because they said that the Rock of Brawl can appear in either, they don't give you a specific area where it is. They're like, it can either be in a Wildspace system or it can be in the Astral plane. We don't know where to put it. You figure it out. And the issue, though, is if it's in the Astral plane, people don't age there. So if you had a child, it would just forever be a baby out the Astral plane. until the Rock of Brawl finally slips into like a Wildspace thing, and then they would slowly start aging like a regular child.
Maybe they just send them off to
I don't know.
time with their grandparents.
You can't really put it in the astral plane, and it makes sense as a community, because then you have to take everything they've already written about the Rock of Brawl, throw it out the window, and reimagine what a civilization would look like, where if you have a baby, you're stuck with that baby until you can leave and let it grow up for 18 years, and then you can like come back to the Rock of Brawl.
I am a little surprised that they didn't adjust that with all the sci-fi that's come out since then, to put some sort of... They have an air bubble.
Yeah.
But I mean, that's like the whole thing with like a Star Trek warp field, where it's around the ship so that you stay on the same timeline as other people do on planets. It would have been a lot. You know what? It could be a magical field, because magic solves everything.
Time's wibbly wobbly.
All right.
So, wow, we spent a lot more time
so
talking about 64-page book than I thought we would, when like 31 pages of it are just ships.
Because I like ships, but we didn't talk about them.
So we'll jump over to booze, and then I'll say a couple of things about the adventure.
Okay.
Just gripes. I'm sure everyone's excited for. So the Booze Astral Menagerie is just the monster book. It has the nice thick pages, so it looks like it's more than it actually is. And all of the monsters are really cool. I was thrown off by the space clowns because they didn't... I don't know. The reasoning for space clowns kind of makes sense when you read through. It's like, all right, great. Spelljammer's weird. It's fun. Space clowns were because a trickster god got a hold of an entire Wildspace system and basically corrupted them, and now like clowns are like they're like revered thing, and now they just go around murdering people.
It felt like they wanted to make Reavers from
Yeah, I could see that.
You know, but they couldn't.
Or
they couldn't be like, okay, we can't go that dark where they're just cannibals eating everybody. So, you know, we love Firefly. The movie Serenity was based around them, but we'll make them clowns.
It seems like a cheesy 50s movie. It's like when space clowns attack from space.
Or maybe one of them was a huge fan of Killer Clowns from Outer Space, a horrible 80s.
Oh, that's probably what I'm thinking of then.
Yeah, it was an 80s horror movie, one of the first horror movies I saw.
Probably where it's from.
It was horrible.
But I mean, all these monsters are cool. The artwork's great. There's giant space hamsters. Their CR is way too low in my opinion for what they are. Actually, we did a deep dive on giant space hamsters as part of our April Fool's monsters, which I will link as well. And I made my own version of giant space hamsters where you can customize it for all your different giant space hamster needs. Link down below. But you get stat blocks for different types of astral elves. I like that there's a bunch of different CRs for them, so you can have them in different situations. You got auto gnomes. You got murder comments, eye mongers, which are like faux beholders made out of rock. More gifts, Githyanki pirates. You got lunar dragons. Dragons are always amazing. You got a megapede, which is a gargantuan centipede. Ugh.
How can you not talk first about murder comets?
I mean, they are
insane.
They do what's on the tin. They murder.
That should be the first thing you talk about.
Evil spellcasters create murder comets by combining the essence of earth elementals with that of fire elementals. Yes. So they're unhappy with life, and then they explode into your ship, dealing a ton of damage. And then, like, all the skilled craftsmen are like, I'll handle this. And then the lowly, shitty wizards are like, done.
Yeah, well, you know, or the wizard goes completely nuts and binds their spirit to the comet, and then the murder comet coming at you has the face of that wizard. That's got to be terrifying.
Are there any other monsters you want to look at?
No, well, yeah, because we were talking about, you were complaining about races that are all humanoids. Now, granted, they're humanoids, but the Doar that are right below them, they're penguin people.
Is that D? Oh, yeah. That is D. I was excited.
Penguin people.
I wanted to talk about them.
Why are they not?
There's penguins. There's penguins. Also, they're in. So they are. What was it? There's something amazing about them.
They have hands. They have little paws.
Oh, they always look for an opportunity to turn a profit. And so they do secret dealings in dark alleys and out of the way places, specializing in illegal and dangerous substances. Like, great.
They're
Black market penguins.
It's awesome. That is. I mean, the pictures alone. They're all wearing cloaks with
Why
hoods.
wasn't that a race that you could play as?
That's what I'm saying.
That would have been way better.
They're mischievous
Penguins.
chaotic penguins. That's fantastic.
I'm about to do me an illegal activity.
Yeah.
And I'm dressed for the occasion in my nice black and white suit.
Oh, and I don't have flippers. I have weird little paws that make me look like
They were a little creepy and that good.
Yeah. The other one was the I'll butcher it. The Rhaegar.
Right. How do you spell it?
And Reigar. So they're humanoids that evolved from octopus, basically.
Yeah, I don't know why they're so human looking.
They could have, if they had changed their appearance. They're pretty cool. They get their own Spelljammer, which is also nice, and it's as close to a living Spelljammer as we really get in this edition. I think there's one other one, but they're fantastic. They look for the beauty in art and war. Fan-fucking-tastic.
Yeah,
that's a great one. Now,
I don't think they need to be so
too humanoid.
looking.
But man, if you had maybe made them the top half humanoid, the bottom half octopus, like what was the bad with the lady from Little Ariel?
Ursula.
Yeah.
Which,
look at that.
Fun fact, didn't actually have a name, like a specific name for it until like 2008 when like a fan just kind of edited a Wikipedia article and called them Cecaelia. Before that, they never really had like a specific name for them.
Cool.
Yeah.
Didn't know that.
Or Cecaelia or something like that.
I am a little surprised they brought back the Neogi.
Well, the issue is
they're huge in Spelljammer.
Yeah, they are. The issue is they didn't include the Neogi until Volos, and then Mordekainen presents Monsters of the Multiverse. And so the issue is when you only rely on people having the core books, you gotta reprint things. Just like you have to reprint vehicle combat rules in every single book going forward, because you're only including things in the core rulebook. And so when you don't add vehicle combat into the Dungeon Master's Guide, you got to reprint it in every single book. So yeah, they do this a lot where they just have to reprint stat blocks.
Yeah. I am glad to see that they included vampires, because vampires actually were a
Vampirates.
Well, they were an important part of the original Spelljammer.
I got the fancy Spelljammer thing books, and they're all dinged up.
Yeah, that's why I'm using the online version.
I haven't even touched them that much, and they were dinged up on arrival.
Well, that's because they cheaped out on the hardcover part because the pages are so thick. Any other monsters that you really liked in here?
No, and like we're already running out of time. So what I'm gonna say for Light of Exercis, the adventure, is that it is the typical 5e adventure, meaning it is written where the DM's going to have to do a lot of work, and it takes place and the players just happen to be there. There's like a lot of cinematic moments.
I don't know why that makes me laugh, but I'm sorry.
Yeah, there's like a lot of cinematic moments where like things happen, and then it's like, once that thing happens, you can then ask the DM the DM can then ask the players what they do in response. And so it doesn't really feel like an adventure written with the idea that the players have any choice as to what's going to happen. Like one minor example is the players are forced to go into a Colosseum death match so that they can get some answers. And the Arcane has 3 different monsters he's going to force the players to fight. At the end of it all, he makes a mistake and accidentally has a guppy appear before them to fight. Okay. And then it's like, oh, wrong one, beep, beep, boop. And then a massive like worm appears and eats the guppy. And instead of like giving the players a chance to respond, the DM is just reading a wall of text to the players and telling them what's happening in the world. And they don't get a chance to interact with the adventure. They don't get a chance to be like, well, no, per our agreement, this is the 3rd monster, we're fighting this. They can't use persuasion or whatever to sway the Arcane to their side, to see things their way. Or they can't try and rescue the guppy from being eaten by this massive worm because their actions don't matter to the adventure. The adventure is going to happen whether the players are there or not. And it's just a very frustrating way of reading how an adventure plays out. It seems more like a movie's being played out than players going on an adventure.
So it's the typical new railroading adventure.
Yeah, you just kind of hope for a 64-page adventure when it takes up a third of the books that, it would be an interesting, fun adventure to go through. And, it just sucks that an official product is so railroady and, really forces things to go one specific way throughout it.
Well, maybe that's because...
Which made me not want to read the adventure because it lacks...
Maybe it's because players have a tendency, when, they walk into a bar and the mysterious person in the corner that is obviously the person they're supposed to go talk to for the information, and as they're walking over, they're like, oh, something shiny, or I think I'll talk to the barmaid instead, the small goblin barmaid. We get distracted so easily. I guess they just want to keep things moving along. I don't know.
I don't know. It's just frustrating how it's written. But that is the Spelljammer's box set. We spent $70 for each copy of it we got because we did support our local game store. I'm just going to go ahead and say, not worth $70. I would not buy it again for $70. Maybe, $40, $50, sure.
Well, we got the fancy copy. Was it cheaper?
No, it's still $70 for the basic copy.
Okay.
So, if you can get it cheaper, I definitely would for what it is.
Well,
and
this is one of those ones you have to buy the pack, right? You can't.
You can't buy the individual books. You have to buy the box set.
Yeah, I liked the. I don't know.
It just left me wanting actual substance.
Well,
I'm excited for Spelljammers. I was really excited for this and for it to bring Spelljammers to 5e, but it's just kind of there. It doesn't provide much beyond what you could have already guessed. If you had the basic understanding of what Spelljammers were, you could have done everything that's in these books. It's not like they bring anything new or bring anything that you couldn't have done on a dreary Saturday morning before your game that evening.
Okay. The Adventurer's Guide, yeah, I can see where, from your standpoint, it really lacks substance.
It does. It's just disappointing. It's there, and it's, hey, here's how speed works. You go 100 million miles per day, or you go your fly speed if you hit an air envelope. We did not check the math on the air envelopes and how fast you're going in your Spelljammer.
Oh, yeah.
Or we did, and you're supposed to spend 2 to 3 months flying out of a planet's air envelope.
No, that could happen.
I don't know. I'm going to assume that's what they meant because that's the numbers they put there.
That really bothers you, doesn't it?
It just...
I was impressed with the fact that they threw in 16 ships. Now, I know you feel like that's filler. I don't. Ships are the most important part. You can't do anything in Spelljammer without a ship.
It feels like filler because they spent 31 pages showing off it in a 64-page book when they could have been doing something else with that page space.
True. But again, you can't do anything in Spelljammer without a ship. So I think it's space well used. Plus, we get the best art out of the entire book.
That's fair. The ships do have the best art out of pretty much everything in here. The Spelljammer ship art is amazing. I would have liked it if they were if they shrunk the Light of Exercis adventure down to level 1 to 3, level 5, whatever. I don't even actually remember how many levels this is supposed to span.
I don't know.
If they shrunk that down and just gave all that page space to the Astral Adventurer's Guide, we could have had so much more usable information. Because you'll run the adventure once and then never pick up this book again?
Okay.
Because that's pretty much what's going to happen. And you might not even run this adventure, so you'll glance through it and be interesting, and then never pick up this book again and only use those other 2 books, so you're wasting a third of what you bought.
I get it, but the game, we both know the game, the direction the game has moved in is less crunch, more free-flowing, make shit up as you go along. They really embraced the entire there was the part, I think there's a paragraph in the beginning of the 1E Dungeon Master's Guide which basically says, that book is filled with more goddamn information that is it's about as crunchy as you can get. It's worse than 3E. There's a chart and table for everything. The rules are drilled down so deep. But there's a line in there that basically says, use what's good for you, make up whatever you want, we're cool with that. And it wasn't Gygax that wrote that section. I forget who it was. That's what's happened to the game. They've taken the rules and watered them down and removed them so much so that unless you're one of those players that reads all those rules, it doesn't make a difference. They're just going to free flow it as they go along and want the players to talk to each other.
But the issue is it's just the DM will decide. Well, the DM doesn't have any rules to go off of, doesn't have any support from the books to know how to make a decision. Well,
because most DMs are just going to make this shit up.
But they shouldn't
on the fly.
Have to. If they have information they can go back to, they can be like, oh, I actually have support. I actually understand how this is supposed to work.
But most are too lazy to read it, though.
You don't know that.
You're not. I would guarantee you many people are. This goes back to what I've been saying.
Chris, you're being very mean to our listeners.
People would rather, it's not about combat. It's about roleplay.
I'm not saying it's about combat. I'm saying there's no rules for anything. There's no substance. Because
they don't care about that portion of the game. They want people to talk to each other and have fun. Yeah. The Astral Adventurer's Guide, I don't have much of a problem with it, but I haven't really been DMing at all.
Whose fault is that?
Yours. The booze makes it kind of worth it. Not $70 worth it, but yeah, they put in good monsters. I think they did a really good job with that.
I love monsters. So, I'm happy for that.
And more great art.
I don't know. Maybe I'll run that adventure. Probably not.
Yeah. I'll take pieces of it for inspiration.
Take years before I run it, probably, maybe. Yeah. So, maybe I'll eventually use that book. Probably not, though.
So I think we can say the best part about the book was the art?
Yeah, the art was great. Hey, if you just want art, get this book.
Yeah. So,
books.
Are we doing scale of 1 to 10?
Well, we'll each do scale of 1 to 5. We'll combine together for a final score. So, Chris, scale of 1 to 5, what do you think?
No, why do I have to go first?
Okay. Steven, scale of 1 to 5, what do I think? Lukewarm 2.5.
Wow.
I mean, I'm excited for Spelljammer, so that's where I get the 2 from.
Are you basing that off of value versus cost, or just overall disappointment with the
not
information?
Necessarily the cost, because you could get this a lot cheaper on D&D Beyond. It is expensive for what it is, but how much I can use out of this, how much work I have to do after getting what I can out of this, and that's how I got to 2.5. I'm not going to use the adventure, so that's a third of it just out the window. Boo's Astral Menagerie, lots of great monsters. I'm excited for that. I could have bought it for cheaper on D&D Beyond.
Yep. Which we did too.
Then there's Astral Adventurer's Guide, which, some of it's useful, I guess.
Well,
it revamped the setting, so I'll give it,
That's about as kind as you've said about it the entire time. Wow, that's...
Or I could just go back and read through my old 2E books.
I know you're going to yell at me for this. I'll give it a 4.
All right.
Just not... All right, taking out... If you want to talk about value versus cost, yeah, then I'm probably at a 2.5 with you. But overall...
Wow, the price that much changes?
Yeah, it's expensive as fuck, dude. For the average person, that's a lot of money. But, thank God Dumpspace paid for it. Thank you, patrons. The Adventurer's Guide, again, biggest thing for me is impressed with their 16 ships. I know you feel like it's filler, but my opinion on why that's important is different than yours.
I feel it's filler, not filler at the same time.
Rule-wise, yeah, they're lacking a lot. There's a lot lacking, and I could have easily given it said 3.5, but the information they give is enough to get you started in Spelljammer. Some of the score comes from, hey, they introduced Spelljammer. Yay! I mean, that's a big piece, too. They brought it in. Will they do anything with it? I don't know.
No, they're never going to touch the setting again.
Yeah. Booze, fantastic.
Yeah.
The monsters are great. Throwing out the fact that, I think stat blocks are stupid, but that's been the same for everything.
I mean, that's just 5e.
They're great monsters, and you can adjust them to, and they say, adjust them to put them in different settings.
I mean,
you can.
Okay.
I can't wait to run into space clowns that aren't in space.
They're just regular clowns.
Yeah. I didn't read... all right, killer clowns. From outer space.
Like I said, clowns, Chris.
Yeah, exactly. No, I didn't read the adventure. I don't really give a shit about the adventure. Even if I do DM, I would never use it, which knocks the score down a little bit. But
so you are fine with a third of it being useless.
Yeah,
okay.
That's fine. I mean, I'll read it and maybe get some inspiration out of it. Sure, but the fact alone that they brought this back, I think it's a neat thing they brought back. I mean, it's not Greyhawk, but it's probably
what could be Greyhawk, Chris.
Only Greyhawk, but worth the money. Worth the money on D&D Beyond? Yes.
Okay. Well, so you got 4. I have 2.5.
6.5.
Yep. Well,
it's a D.
Slightly warmer than lukewarm.
Anything else?
No, we don't have an upcoming product to talk about next time. So I think the survey for OneD&D will be starting actually tomorrow, September 1st. So, that'll be interesting to see what survey questions they have there. But otherwise, we'll pick a topic. We'll talk about some random stuff about RPGs and D&D and whatnot. And if you enjoy the podcast, make sure you follow us on Twitter. There's a link because I don't remember what our Twitter address is.
Yeah, right there.
And Reddit. You can also join the Patreon
_dump
and help support us over at Dumpstats.
As always, Stephen, thank you so much.